Hey everyone, have you ever wished you could just predict what's going to be on your next exam? Well, you're in exactly the right place. Today, we're not just going to look at some questions from the latest SSC MTS paper. No, we're going to crack the code. We're getting inside the minds of the examiners to find the patterns that will help you study smarter, not just harder.
Right? That's the million-dollar question for every single student. How do you do it? Well, the secret is all about spotting the patterns, anticipating what the examiners are really looking for. And in this breakdown, that's exactly what we're going to do together.
So here's our game plan. We'll start by unpacking the history questions, then we'll jump into the sports arena. After that, we're mapping out geography and culture and simplifying the science section. And then we'll pull it all together for the most important part, your strategic takeaways.
All right, let's dive right into our first section, history. Now, you got to understand, these questions are not random trivia. They consistently test your knowledge of key figures, the rise and fall of major dynasties, and those really foundational events that shaped history.
Okay, here's a perfect example right from the paper. They're asking specifically about the end of the Shunga dynasty. Take a second. Does a name pop into your head? This is testing a really precise piece of information. And the answer is Vasudeva Kanva. Now, what's really important here isn't just remembering the name. This is a huge clue. The exam is basically telling us that the moment power shifts from one dynasty to the next, that's a hot topic.
So here's your first pro tip. When you're studying dynasties, don't just memorize the most famous rulers. You've got to know the founders, the timelines, where their capitals were, and crucially, the sequence of who came after whom. That's where you'll find some easy marks for sure. Let's switch gears and head into the sports arena. You'll see the same kind of pattern here. The questions aren't just about who won a game. They often zoom in on the stories, the legacies of major personalities, and those big landmark events.
Here we go, an autobiography of a true Indian legend. This is a classic type of question, kind of blending sports knowledge with general awareness. Any idea who wrote this incredible book?
Of course, it's the one and only Flying Sikh, Milkha Singh. And what does this question tell us? It reveals a very clear play from the exam setter's book. They love asking about books written by famous people.
And this brings us to another killer pro tip. Autobiographies are a high-value target for your revision. Seriously, make a list of famous people, not just in sports, but artists, leaders, everyone, and their books. This theme pops up time and time again.
Okay, on to Section 3, Geography and Culture. This area is, well, it's huge. It can cover everything from really specific data and demographics to the amazing festivals that happen all across the country.
Whoa, okay, look at how specific this is. They're not just asking about the total population, they want the rural population growth rate from a specific census period. This means you need to know your stuff beyond just the headlines.
And the answer is 12.18%. You know, seeing a precise number like this really drives the point home. The exam isn't testing general ideas, it's testing if you know the actual data.
So, what's our takeaway? You have to go deep on the census data. Don't just skim it. Really focus on comparing rural versus urban growth, look at the state-by-state numbers, and understand the trends in population density. The details really matter here.
All right, so we go from hard data straight to cultural celebrations. See the range? This question is all about your awareness of big national events. So, where does the International Mango Festival happen every year?
And the answer is New Delhi. This is a perfect example of the kind of balance you need in your prep. You need to be as comfortable with cultural facts as you are with census statistics. All right, let's get into our final topic section, science. Now, science questions usually come in two flavors. You've got the ones that test fundamental, real-world concepts, and then you have questions about India's major scientific and industrial bodies.
Here's a classic concept-based question. I mean, we've all seen this happen a million times, right? You take a cold drink out on a warm day. But what's the actual science behind it?
The principle is condensation. Simple as that. It's just the water vapor that's already in the air turning back into liquid when it hits that cooler surface. This shows they want you to understand the science of everyday life.
And now for that second type of question, one that mixes industry with general knowledge. Do you happen to know when the Public Sector Undertaking, or PSU, Coal India, was established? The year was 1975. And just like with the history and sports questions, this isn't just some random date they pulled out of a hat. Nope, it's another one of those recurring clues. Which of course leads us to our last pro tip for today. You've got to know your PSUs. For the really big ones, lock in 2 key facts: the year they were established and where their headquarters are located.
So, after breaking down this entire paper, what's the master plan? This table right here. This is your blueprint. These are the hot topics that keep coming up. For Indian dynasties, you need founders and timelines. For autobiographies, know the famous authors. For the Indian census, you've got to dive into the deep data. And for PSUs, it's all about the establishment year and headquarters. This is how you study smart.
So, we've cracked the code. We've seen the patterns. The power is officially in your hands now. And that brings us to the final, most important question, which is for you. Now that you know all this, what's the very first thing you're going to do to make your prep smarter? Think about it. Thanks for tuning in.